Probably the number one problem that people have is that there's so much fake. There's just so much fake out there. These people are not really in business. They're just out there regurgitating stuff that they see online. They're pretending to be business owners, and a lot of them are. A lot of them are. They pop up on YouTube or TikTok, and then they're gonna go and they have to go work at their other job that they're their real job, because they really don't know, and they got a lot of hopes too, that maybe there's going to be a way that they're going to be able to be successful one way. But what I want to do is I just want to come in. I don't care who is watching. I want to give you the real deal about what it means to be a business person. I've been in business since 1990. I have not worked for anyone other than myself since 1990. At the age of 21, I started my first company, and I ran that business for over 30. Let's see, it was from 1990, and all the way to 2023 is when we ended up retiring that business. But obviously, I own other companies, and it's I what I see online. It is incredible. It is incredible what I see online, that people are lying to you. They are making you think that you could get rich overnight. They are making you think that you can go viral. They all of this stuff, and then people are showing cars and luxury apartments and trips and all of this stuff, and it's just a whole bunch of BS for most of them. Not all of them, but I would say 99% of the people are lying online about being in business and being successful and the money that they're making. And I had saw an article that even backs up with the data, is that if you go and look at the SBA and you look at, according to the tax returns that people are filing, that most business owners are only making, the average business owner is probably making about 50 to $75,000 a year, the average. I had a good buddy of mine, had multiple, he had seven Subway stores, seven. And out of the all the seven, he only brought in for himself, after he added it up with the expenses and everything, that he was only making $100,000 a year. But he was running around the seven, managing seven different Subway sandwich stores. That's why you'll see people, people from other countries, they're getting them. They're getting them, and not really paying the people the way that they should be getting paid. You're seeing that, and I don't have no hesitations about saying it. The company that I started, we used to advertise for businesses in the quote unquote the central city of Milwaukee, and a lot of the business owners that I dealt with, they were from other countries. And I talked with their employees. I got to know them, and they would just tell me straight up. And they would all be sleeping in one room in at a apartment, but it was better than the life that they had before. And I'm also here, I want to break another myth. Another myth. A lot of people will say, well, they're all sleeping in the same room and they're saving money, this and that. I'm here to tell you, one of the biggest myths that is out there is that because they're doing that, they become successful. No, I know a ton of workers that are struggling uh, to be able to make ends meet, that work for someone that brought them over or sponsored them, that brought them over. It is not the way that you think. They struggle. They ride the bus to work. Uh, they want more money. The same things that other people, same things that you want, same things that you want, they want, and they're struggling. And And a lot of them ask for my advice. Like they're sitting there and they see what one of their the successful people from their community is doing, and then they're wondering why they can't do it. And one of the things that I've seen with a lot of people is that when they come to United States, a lot of people get American. I call it Americanized. That means that all of the distractions and the things are, they're open. They're looking at their cell phones. They're not, head is not put into trying to do something like the person who sponsored them to come over did. And then a lot of times it's not encouraged. It's not encouraged, which is something that I've seen also because the owners of those businesses, they want to have employees, and they don't really encourage it. And some of them end up getting paid more money because they're like the manager of the place, and they want to make sure that they keep them. But the other ones are just cycled through, and some end up doing business. Some of them end up just being workers for the rest of their lives, just like a lot of other people. They just fit in where they get in. But for me as a business owner, this is what I want to tell you like about. Let me tell you what I do on a daily basis, cuz I think a lot of people have this misconception that you're like grinding and working hard, like hours a day and all of that. It's not like that once you get to a certain level, but also it doesn't have to be that way at the beginning. I obviously I grinded. I used to work a lot of hours in my early years, and I thought it had to be that way, but it doesn't. If you can get yourself to focus on the things that matter, you can become successful in business. That's the thing. If you could get yourself to focus on the things that matter, you could become successful. And for anyone that is on here, you can ask me your questions too about business, because I want to make this about helping people. But so the number one thing that has made a difference for me in business is that my days are planned. I plan it out, and I stick to it to the best of my ability. And when I say the best of my ability, I uh, critique myself and say, are you doing things at the best of your ability? When you critique yourself and you ask yourself those questions, you're either going to lie and say yes, or you're going to tell the truth and say no. And I tell myself the truth, and then that's when I take it up a notch. But when you take it up a notch, it doesn't mean that you have to work. You like grind yourself to the bone. No, what it means is that you got to pay more attention to what is working and what is not working. And but the number one thing that you got to do is you got to put some type of plan together on how you're going to move forward throughout your day. And the way that I do mine is like I write down on every like I write out what I'm going to do during the week, and I cross them off as I need, when I need to cross them off as they been accomplished. And also I remind myself of what my goals are. I'll just write it into my calendar, like what I'm trying to do. One of my businesses, I want to get the revenue up to 250,000 a week. Right now we average about 100. On some good months, we might do 100, 120,000 in a week. I want to raise that up. But I mean, if we've grown that from zero all the way to averaging upwards of almost $400,000 every 4 weeks with that business, 400,000, and sometimes 500. In On a great month, we've done over 600. But we want to get that consistently at 250,000 a week for that business. And then for my other two companies, I want to get them up into $100,000 a month in revenue. One of them is a software company. The other one is my credit and debt company. I want to get that upwards of 100,000 a month. So what is going through my mind, or what am I doing working with my team, the ups and the downs, and what am I seeing that stops the growth of the business. And um first for me is that I have to get myself right to be able to do that. So no business is going to take off unless the owner uh is in the right mindset. So how do I get myself in the right mindset? Well, I number one, I get sleep at night. I don't stay up late. Make sure that I get rest, and then I wake up in the morning and I go down to my gym and I exercise. And that gets my body moving. That's showing also mentally, that's showing that I care about my body. You'll hear things where people will be like, well, money isn't everything, and that, well, money isn't everything. Your health is everything. But a lot of people can't even have good health because they're working themselves to death. So there's I don't want to say like a balance, because you're never going to have a balance. But what you have to do is you have to plan out what you want your life to be. And I made that plan years ago. And way back in the 1990s, we used to have these Walkman radios, and I was had these earphones in. I had recorded this tape. Back then it was cassette tapes. Some of you don't even know what those are. Look it up online. Cassette tape. I recorded myself and I said, what is my perfect day of work and play? And I got that from one of my mentors, Marshall Silver, where he was like, if you can listen to what you want your day to be like, even though it may not be 100% like that, at least you have some direction in your life. And one of the things was I wanted to make sure that I woke up and I went to, was able to exercise in my own personal gym, which I had built at my house. At that time, I did not have a personal gym built at my house. I used to have to go work out at the exercise places. But that was something that I had on that tape. I used to listen to it over and over and over. And then I would talk about how I would be with my wife. We would take vacations, and the way that I would work and go to my office and all of that. Even before I even had an office, back at that time, we were working in the 1990s, working from my home. And but I had that vision. And now, if you fast forward, I have two commercial buildings. My businesses are in both of them. I only use them for my businesses, and I come to work, walk in, and it's my building, and it's like what I had envisioned. And then I go down to my gym. I have a nice gym set up at my home, and it's like what I was playing over and over in my head, that stuff materialized. And that's something that I would encourage people to do, is that if you can get some sort of direction or whatever it is, it could be just a little thing, just to test it, and you'll see that your life will start to really improve. So what I do is I write down what I'm going to do. I write it down, and I know what I'm going to do in the morning, and I write down what I need to accomplish during the day, at during the for the really for the week. And then I just start scratching them off. And that's really benefited me. The more that I stay with that, I'm able to get with the team and say, hey, did you take care of this? If they didn't take care of it, then I'll be like, hey, we got to get on that. And nothing is perfect. Nothing is perfect, but it helps me to be able to, number one, manage multiple companies and manage multiple employees, and be able to allow the company to be able to grow, but also to be able to allow myself to be able to have the time to really enjoy being in business, because I see a lot of people that don't really enjoy being in business. So uh, to sum it up, what you should do is you should write down on paper what your perfect day of work and play would be. Do you want to wake up in the morning and go exercise? And then what is your plan for the day? If you're trying to move away from being an employee, what is going to be your plan of what are you going to work on every day to get to that? And it's not going to be a big leap. It's going to be little pieces at a time is going to get you there. Little pieces. I want you to think of it that way, not where you're thinking that, oh, you're going to have to make this huge leap. It doesn't work that way. But what happens is that when you make those small steps to get to where you want to be, when you look back, you've made a big leap. You've made a huge leap, and you'll see that other people that were around you that didn't do anything with their life or didn't take the tiny steps, that they're just thinking that they got to make this big leap, they're still in the same place, but you're way ahead of them. That's what happened with me and my wife with our first company and with all of our companies. But what I really made a difference with our first company was that we just worked on it a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. And we, when people tried to discourage us or they were saying, what are you doing that's not going to work, that you're not going to be successful, we just put that aside. We didn't listen to them because we knew what we wanted. We had wrote down on paper what we wanted for ourselves and our family. So we were just focused on that. We didn't measure ourselves by what someone else said. We didn't measure ourselves by what someone else's business was doing. We just said, this is what we wanted to do. And if we just keep working on it until we get there. And it ended up being way more than what we expected. Like huge success. And that uh, uh, helped us move over to other businesses that were even bigger successes than that business. So that's what real business is like. That's what real business is like. And then another thing before I close this out, and I'm going to come on here time to time to talk about this, is that a lot of the stuff where you see people online and you see the where they're saying that they're successful or it looks like they went viral and something happened, there is something else to it. There is always something in the background that they don't tell you. I was looking at and let me tell you one that's going around right now, Morgan and Morgan, which is the biggest personal injury law firm in the United States, Morgan and Morgan. And what what I saw in one, he's doing these podcasts right now, and something that I had noticed where he was like we built this up from the bottom up, and didn't have much experience in saying stuff like that. And then I had watched another podcast that he was talking about, and he had said that he was had started a bank before he had got into that full time with that business. And I was like, so there's always some things that are behind. Like if a person was able to be in a position to start a bank, they're going to obviously be in a position to be able to understand what it's going to take to build up a personal injury uh, firm. They're going to be able the mindset to take a risk, to put money out there, to be able to have money come back in at a certain rate. And so that's why, like, I found that out when I was in in network marketing. There was a company called Excel Communications, and some of you may had known about it. Let me take a quick drink of my coffee. Company called Excel Communications, and my wife and I had joined it. It was in the early 2000s, and uh, we had saw these young guys. They were doing very good, and now what my wife and I remember, we were in the marketing business. The company that we started in 1990 was a successful marketing business, so we were able to advertise and you know get people to look at the offer of the program, and we were like, even with with the experience that we have, with the marketing that we have, all of the things that we have available to us, it's still not growing in the way that it seems like it's growing for this other group of young guys that we're doing. And so what we did is we said, okay, we are my wife and I said we got to learn. There's something that we don't know about what's going on with this business. And the easiest way to find out on something is to go to the people who are successful in that business, in that industry. And if they are going to be truthful with you, they're going to have to sit you down. And what we found out is that if you're not at a certain level with those businesses, either with the way that you're pushing it, the commitment, stuff like that, they're not going to really tell you what they're doing. And they sat us down, and they had like told us, hey, this is what you got to do to be successful with Excel Communications. And after that, within probably a month, we were earning upwards some weeks of $4,000 a week with that business, from making maybe a couple of $100, months before, because they tell, we were like, hey, we're not going to continue in this unless you let us know how we have to put a system together in place to make it work. And but the thing about it is that there's not too many people who are gonna let you get that close and tell you the truth about it. And that's with anything. That's with anything with business. And but you can figure it out, but you have to pay attention to what is truly working and not go out there just thinking that you got to try everything and believe what other people are saying, that there's some secret in this and that. You have to, if you're what I this is the way that I do it. It's like if you're trying to get into marketing, advertising, like there's a whole bunch of people thinking you're gonna go out there and sell people AI product, business owners AI products, and do this and that. There's a whole bunch of people teaching, but there's very few people that's actually implementing it, because it's very hard to go to a business owner and get them to buy in on implementation of that, because you got to make, you got to sell them, you got to put stuff in place. And also, even when it's sold and implemented, there's always going to be tweaks, and business owners are stuck in our patterns, and there's very few business owners that's going to allow something to really truly work for their business like that. If it doesn't show some sort of real benefit at the beginning, they're going to be like, hey, I need to save the money, I don't need to spend the money on it. So there's a ton of people that will make it like that they're out there selling businesses on it. So what I would say to do is, prove to me a group, a list of business owners that you're actually doing this for. And if they can't do that, it's not true. And then, as a matter of fact, here's the other thing, the other flip side about it is that if they got this secret formula about on how to go out there and sell it to businesses, why wouldn't they just go out there and keep selling it to businesses? Why would they have to want to sit down and train someone on how to do it and have them go out there and potentially steal business that they could go out there and get for themselves? That is a very logical thing. The reason why is because it's a lot easier to do what I call sell the shovels for someone to go out there and get the goal than it is for the person to go out there and get the goal. So I hope you enjoyed this. Please like this video. I'm gonna get on here and talk about my business experience to kind of put a little bit of balance out here and get away from the fakeness that we're seeing all over the place. Thank you for your time. Stephen A. Williams with Making Money with Stephen A. Williams here on YouTube.